This mould has been washed off numerous times. It always returns. Debbie Hampton's son Oliver and daughter Sophia are constantly ill. So ill their GP has written to their housing association twice about their housing conditions.
It would just be nice to not have to see them when they're coughing everywhere till they're sick. To not have to tell them they can't run along with their friends. We've done everything that we've been told to do, opening the windows, walking around with a squeegee and the kitchen roll. We've done it all and it makes no difference.
Over on the Brighton Hill estate, meanwhile, another Sovereign Housing tenant told us about the damp problems she's had.
They didn't help, and in the end I just got so sick and tired of it causing me so much stress that I just done it all myself.
We recognise this is deeply distressing for residents and we're sorry we've not been able to sort it out as quickly as we'd liked. I don't think there's one thing that is behind this. It's a very tricky issue.
Sovereign Housing has moved the radiators in the Hamptons home in an attempt to improve the situation, but Debbie says it's not working. Debbie is among a number of tenants now demanding to be rehoused. Nikki Mitchell, BBC South Today.
A former school governor says parents are being misled about merger plans for a Basingstoke secondary school. Hampshire County Council says Fort Hill Community School's no longer viable with falling demand for places. As Tom Hepworth reports, it wants to combine it with another local school.
A school's at the heart of any community. The Winklebury area of Basingstoke's recently lost its doctor's surgery and a pub. Plans for the secondary school have sparked anger. So much so, one governor has resigned. Frank Mudd says that governors were given just two options, closure or merger, and they were given a quarter of an hour to decide.
Since then we found out there are more options, we also asked if we could have more time, and we were told it's time critical and we needed to make a decision there and then.
Do you feel you've been railroaded into this?
I felt like we had our arm up our back with a gun to our head saying either do this or we're going to shut the school.
Hampshire County Council rejects claims parents were misled and governors pressured, saying no decision has been made.
There's no way we are railroading anything through. We are very worried about the future of the school because of the number of spare places there will be in it. It will be almost impossible to deliver a satisfactory education to those pupils that are there going through the school at the moment.
Ofsted inspections found Fort Hill requiring improvement, while Cranbourne Business and Enterprise College was rated inadequate. Critics say the council should help Fort Hill improve rather than close it. The consultation ends on the 1st of March. Parents and governors are asking for more time to come up with alternative proposals. Tom Hepworth, BBC South Today.
The high-tech company Motorola Solutions says it's moving its European headquarters from Basingstoke to central London. 270 people are currently employed at the site. The company isn't the first high-profile name to move on from the town in recent years. Bryony Leyland is live in Basingstoke tonight. Just tell us more about what's happening.
Well, Sally, Motorola Solutions provide a range of high-tech communication gadgets, things like two-way radios used by emergency services. They've been based here in Basingstoke for about 30 years, but they are a global company originally founded in Chicago, and they employ 14,000 people around the world. The company made its name with mobile phones, but that side of the business, Motorola Mobility, which also has a centre here in Basingstoke, was split off a few years ago and is unaffected by today's news. Motorola Solutions told us, "We are working closely with our employees through this relocation process. We are committed to our employees and do not anticipate any layoffs connected to this move."
And Bryony, this isn't the first time that Basingstoke has lost out to other locations, is it?
No, that's right. Some high-profile names have left Basingstoke over the last 5 years. Among them, the Chinese technology company Huawei. They couldn't find a suitable place to expand, so went to Reading. Energy giant SSE also chose Reading for its new headquarters.
It is a blow in terms of Basingstoke's profile, losing a high-profile global player like this. I do believe that Basingstoke is strong enough to get over this, and I'm sure that some other high-tech company will treasure those skills and those premises, but it will prove, I think, difficulty for some of those employees.
Well, no comment from people leaving work tonight. Basingstoke Council says it will continue to work to attract technology companies. From Basingstoke, back to you, Sally.
Bryony, thanks. One of the two... As the UK faces more cuts to public spending this week, pressure is on councils to deliver more for less. No wonder then that many try to invest what cash they have to make a return. But Basingstoke Council is having to plug a gap of several £100,000 in its finances after its investments made less money than expected. Ben Moore has a story.
A gamble that has not paid off. As cuts are made across the UK, Basingstoke and Deane Council has a further hole in its finances.
In day-to-day expenditure in this council, we're £500,000 down on what they expected to be. That means they've cut the CAB. That means they've cut the community schools budgets. That means services in Basingstoke have been cut because the Tories were too busy trying to play bankers at the stock exchange.
The council has a pot of £140 million to invest, and in the last financial year it expected to see a return of £3.5 million. Instead, that figure came in at £3.1 million, a shortfall of just less than £400,000. The council's been accused of counting its chickens, as that money's already been spent. The cash to plug the gap will come from reserves. The man who oversaw the investment says he could have played it no other way.
In the last financial year, we generated a surplus of over £650,000. And the important thing from our perspective is that we invest money safely, that we don't invest it in Icelandic banks or in the stock market.
An internal report notes the council was the victim of low interest rates, but taxpayers in this pub doubt the council will ever hit the jackpot.
For the time being, where everything's on a downturn, it just seems ridiculous to be risking that much money when there's so many people out there that could use it and need the help.
They should do the same as everyone else has to do and keep it in a safe place, really.
The council's bringing in KPMG to help manage finances, a deal that was put out to tender almost a year ago. It's hoped for the next financial year it'll prove a winning combination. Ben Moore, BBC South Today, Basingstoke.
4 men have been jailed after they caused
Now, people living in Basingstoke are feeling a bit shaken, having been told that their rubbish may not be collected if they throw the wrong things in the bin and don't recycle properly.
The council has a poor recycling level compared with other parts of the region. Householders who flout the regulations will first get a written warning, then have face-to-face meeting, and if they continue to put banned items in their bin, their rubbish collection will be cancelled.
The idea has met with some opposition. Earlier I spoke.
We want residents to recycle. The 3 strikes and out is a threat, and ultimately the threat is only scheduled to give us a 3% increase. We need to be bolder, we need to be more radical, we need to get ourselves out of the bottom third in terms of councils across the country and near the top half. This policy goes nowhere near that.
Well, earlier I spoke to Hayley Eachus from the council. Hayley Eachus, people pay their taxes for you to empty their bins, and now you're threatening them, saying that you might not empty them after all.
Yeah, we're certainly not trying to threaten people. What we are trying to do is work with residents to encourage them to recycle. People need to recycle. We can't waste resources that can be recycled. And what we want to do is give everybody a chance in this borough to work with us to recycle. The policy that was voted through Cabinet last night is a 3-pronged policy. We're not saying that you mistakenly put something in your green bin and we're then just not going to collect it. We're going to work with you to discuss why you're not recycling, to assist people, and it's about helping you recycle, not punishing you. What we really want to come down on and what we really want to crack down on is the persistent offenders, those that never recycle, or those that are putting things like nappies in green bins, which does happen, which then contaminates a whole lorry load of recycling. But this really is about working with people, and it's not trying to threaten them into recycling, it's trying to work with them.
If I lived there, who's going to sift through my bin? How are they going to do it?
They're not going to sift through your bin. It will just be quite obvious to the bin men that collect your rubbish whether or not your black bin is contaminated. It will be obvious if there's glass in there, that when they tip it into the lorry they will hear the glass smash, or if there's recycling materials on top, then you will be warned, and an officer will work with you to try and see how best you can recycle.
Do you think people support you in Basingstoke for doing this?
Yeah, I do think people support me, and we have a number of residents in Basingstoke who are very good at recycling, and they recycle well, and it's not those that we want to target, it's those that persistently don't recycle and persistently contaminate the green bins with dirty rubbish. One of them, and the main one in the borough, is dirty nappies.
OK. On that note, we'll leave it. Thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
Well, many of you have been commenting on the idea on our Facebook page.
Yes, Jane Wood thinks it will encourage fly tipping. She says some people will never recycle no matter what. It's not fair on the rest of us, she says.
Ellen Willow says if they emptied the recycling bin every week, people would recycle more.
Wayne Carey says we pay for it, so collect it. Otherwise, refund our council taxes.
But Susan James simply says, brilliant idea. Thank you to everyone who got in touch.
A decision to spend almost £800,000 of taxpayers' cash on a Costa coffee in Basingstoke should be reconsidered, according to opposition councillors, because a cabinet member who approved the plan also works at the firm that said the move was good value for money. Councillor John Isaac voted for the decision, but did not declare that he's also a partner at Montague Evans, the property firm that scrutinised the business case for the investment. Rob Powell reports.
The coffee shop that's brewing a fresh argument in Basingstoke.
Nearly £800,000 is to be spent by the council on a 25-year lease for this Costa Coffee. It says it will rent the building out and recoup the cash. The decision was made at a cabinet meeting in May.
The fact that we commissioned experts to advise us on this, and they have advised us that this deal is representative of best value to the council. Therefore, I'm confident that I can recommend this to cabinet.
Some of this business advice came from property firm Montague Evans, which said the deal was good value for money. Councillor John Isett, seen here at the same meeting, is the cabinet member for property finance and commissioning. He is also a partner at Montague Evans. Despite declaring this interest online, he failed to declare it at the meeting or leave the meeting at any point. The work done by Montague Evans on this Costa Coffee cost the taxpayer almost £4,000. But the contract wasn't put out to commercial tender because the council said that Montague Evans' price was competitive and that there were time pressures. Montague Evans also has another contract with the council worth £45,000. This is associated with the wider leisure park here in Basingstoke, but it did have to compete for this work. Opposition councillors say the work given to Montague Evans should have been competed for and that the whole Costa decision should now be reconsidered.
The code of conduct is very clear that where a councillor has a conflict of interest, they need to leave the decision-making process. He didn't. He stayed in the room and he voted on it. And from that point of view, he has a conflict of interest.
Councillor Isett declined to give us an interview on camera, but did say that he was not involved in the Montague Evans contract and it is of no personal benefit to him as he is a part-time employee of the firm. He insisted that he had done nothing wrong and that he had declared his interest in Montague Evans online, but added that in hindsight he should have left the council meeting. The Borough Council recently refused to reconsider the Costa decision and is backing the move.
I can state absolutely categorically that for myself and the other officers who've been involved in this process, Councillor Isett's employment by Montague Evans was totally irrelevant. This contract was properly awarded and the decision on the leisure park was properly taken.
Opposition councillors say they are now considering a formal complaint. For now, this coffee shop remains shut, but the arguments around it grind on. Rob Powell, BBC South Today, Basingstoke.
One of Britain's top event riders who was competing in Hampshire yesterday.
A new £200 million retail and leisure park has been announced for Basingstoke. The development could be complete within 5 years on the same site as the Aquadrome and Milestones Museum. But the plans for the revamp of the council-owned leisure park have proved controversial, as our political editor Peter Henley reports.
This is the first concept idea for the 60-acre site to the northwest of Basingstoke. Along with the preservation of Sanders Field as water meadows, a cinema and ice rink, there will be themed activity areas, including water sports and lots of new shops.
You have to go to Bicester or to Ashford to find a similar type of retail. So I think it's complementary to what we have here. And retail is leisure these days.
All we ever do is go shopping together, so it would be nice to have something here, yeah.
Sometimes you don't want to go into the town to particularly do some shopping. You just want to come out and do a couple of bits.
But granting developers New River Retail a 15-month exclusivity period to develop ideas has not gone down well with opposition councillors.
Labour councillors in Basingstoke say this plan is skating on thin ice in more ways than one, not only taking shopping away from the town centre, but also handing everything over to one developer.
The financial director of New River Retail is married to the Conservative Member of Parliament for Eastleigh, and she has received money from New River Retail, and she's also a major shareholder of New River Retail. They've moved from having a leisure-focused element of the proposal to now talking about retail.
Are you saying this isn't the best thing for Basingstoke?
This retail focus will threaten our town centre.
But it's totally erroneous. The process that we go through for procurement is a standard process that every government organisation, local government, national government, has to go through.
The developers and the MP and the Conservative Party deny they've done anything wrong. Basingstoke Council already gets a healthy income from its land development. They estimate the rent and rates will treble if the new scheme goes ahead. Peter Henley, BBC South Today, Basingstoke.
They survived a devastating gas explosion that destroyed their house. In fact, this
They're talking about 1.3 million people being inside one council. It doesn't add up. It's undemocratic. It just won't work. What you really want is a local, accountable council that delivers good quality services that people can see and people can genuinely take part in and feel a part of. We want our children's centres to be open, not closed. We want youth workers working in our communities, not sacked. We want care for the elderly where there isn't bed blocking. There is so much that a Basingstoke Council can do that a Hampshire County Council is not doing for us at the moment and would not do if we were run from Winchester.